When it comes to animation, my tastes usually involve shows that focus on the power of friendship. So why don't I list my top 15 friendships in animated TV shows? I sound like the Watch Mojo lady. Anyway, even though I have the most basic taste, I figured I should give the classic "this is only my opinion" disclaimer. They may not be the objective best, but they're the friendships I enjoy the most. And that's the showbiz, baby. Also, spoilers and their severity are listed in the description.
Yellow.
Pink.
You do care.
Look, I may not watch the show as often as I used to, but I pay homage to the originals. Spongebob and Patrick are one of the most iconic cartoon friendships, and I respect what they represent for animation. That being said, what was once a dynamic of Spongebob and Patrick has since morphed into them feeling like one combined character. This, of course, could be the selection of newer episodes I've watched, but I can't help but enjoy their friendship dynamic most in the earlier episodes. I mean, the classic underwear scene is what made me believe friendship is possible. Actually, I think the Fry Cook games in general is likely one of the best episodes of animation ever.
Like I can't see the road! How's that, Blackie? Like, much better. I think I see the school.
This is a similar situation to SpongeBob and Patrick, where not only their friendship is admirable, but what it represents for animation. As a kid, I was obsessed with these movies, and Shaggy and Scooby were always my favorites. 1, because I found their comedic fear relatable, and 2, because I had a crush on Shaggy because I was a girl of taste. Either way, you can't deny that their relationship is the blueprint for the concept of an individually strong friendship in a larger group, something that will definitely make its way on this list later. And while I may personally enjoy the later interpretations of this dynamic more, I can't pretend that Scooby and Shaggy didn't pave the way.
We just met, but I want to pursue music with you. Carole? No, let me explain. I was thinking that same thing.
I haven't watched the show in a while, but I distinctly remember thinking the best part of the series, sans the music of course, was the friendship between Carole and Tuesday. Anytime the title of a show is two characters' names, you just assume their relationship is the driving force of the plot. And what I love is that Carole and Tuesday have very different backgrounds but end up, by chance, bonding over music. Carole works an array of part-time jobs as she pursues a music career on Mars, and when she meets Tuesday, a runaway rich girl who also has a passion for music, the two instantly click. What I really like is that the show doesn't rely on some big conflict to push their friendship. Not to say writing conflict in friendship is bad. In fact, some shows execute this super well. But in this show, I feel it would have taken away more than adding. Instead, the girls are a constant support for one another.
I never even got the chance to meet the guy who should have been my mentor.
I hear that. You know, we have more in common than you might think. Our love of chicken whizzies, for example. Let me buy you some to replace the bag I salvaged. We'll hang, it'll be totally crash.
Sure.
Great. You got any money?
When season 2 of Young Justice first dropped, I remember being annoyed that so many characters were added. I stand by that to a certain extent because larger casts mean less time to flesh out your characters, but I didn't know that these two would so quickly become my favorites. And it's a way more complicated situation than I originally thought. I don't have extensive knowledge of the DC universe, but when I found out that Bart's whole personality is basically a cover, I was taken aback. I genuinely believed he came from the future as a tourist, but when I realized he basically became friends with Jaime to stop him, particularly Blue Beetle, from being an agent of the Reach, I found myself wondering why their dynamic felt so genuine. And once again, I have basically no knowledge of pre-existing DC lore, so maybe this is a plot that's already played out? But I like to believe, based on what I've seen on screen, that their friendship, while originally starting as prevention, has become something genuine, and that not all of Bart's personality is a show. I hope we get to see more of it next season. Fingies crossed.
Help! Who are you yelling to? Nobody's lived here for centuries.
Well, what do you think we should do?
Think about our place in the universe?
To be honest, Avatar is one of those shows where, while individual friendships are great, I'm more drawn to the group dynamic. That being said, I absolutely love how after all of this time Zuko spent hunting Aang down to capture him, they so quickly became friends. The Firebending Masters is such a good episode. It not only gives us insight into the lore of firebending, but it demonstrates how both Aang and Zuko have diverged in some way from their destined path, and how this has brought them together. I'm a sucker for enemies to friends, and I can't think of an example this classic. I mean, Zuko has always been more of an anti-hero than a villain, given his origins and the ways in which he approaches his goal, but Aang saw before anyone else that Zuko had good in him. When Aang brings up the potential of them being friends, I feel like we all knew it was only a matter of time.
うちで勉強会とか行った夢鍵
てってれーんおはようまぶちくん
I think this is proof that I made this list for me and me alone because I genuinely don't know anyone as obsessed with Blue Spring Ride as I am. I've been reading this manga once or twice a year since 2015, and with every single watch and read, I find myself more and more drawn to this dynamic in particular. Yes, Futaba and Yuri's friendship is amazing and their storylines parallel each other's masterfully, but something about Kominato's outgoing personality sneaking its way into Ko's icy heart is just perfect. And while Futaba is the main reason Ko ends up accepting this new group and being able to smile once again, I think the friendship in Blue Spring Ride isn't secondary to the romance, but rather on level with it. Kominato seems to be like the comic relief at first glance, but he sticks by Ko's side when it feels like the world is against him, and he does whatever it takes to assure Ko that his high school years will be great. I know this is cheating because most of the scenes between them never make it to the anime, but I am obsessed with the scene where those boys are making fun of Ko for dropping from the advanced class, and Kominato sticks up for him. You can tell by Ko's reaction that he never had anyone stand by him like this.
Wow. And you guys are mortal enemies too? What are the odds?
What? We're not enemies.
Ryan is my best friend.
Yeah. Could two enemies have figured out that dial thing together?
Well, I mean, yeah. Because you didn't figure it out so much as like fight over it until it randomly fell into place.
You know before how I said there are some shows where focusing on conflict between friends is a good thing? Boom, here it is. Infinity Train is a series that relies on conflict, relies on turmoil, but also relies on genuine relationships and growth. Season 4 was definitely one of those things that's not like the others, because until then, each season's protagonist was a minor character in the previous season. Season 4 is a prequel of sorts, taking place in the 80s while in the background, Amelia takes over the train. And if this season is before most of the overarching plot, it's no surprise that the focus relies on Ryan and Min's relationship. I mean, we can all agree that one of the most gorgeous scenes ever is the split screen scene, right? You see how they started drifting apart before college and how they still wanted to reach out to one another but just didn't know how. They aren't on the train as two individuals with individual problems, but as a pair with one intertwined problem. And despite them at first attributing the number to Ryan's impulsive nature, they later learned that the train is much more complex than that. And the path towards them potentially rekindling their relationship isn't exactly a smooth one, but that wouldn't be realistic. And because I know this is the big question when it comes to their relationship, I found their relationship, much like most relationships in the show, to be up for interpretation. And with Owen Dennis, it feels like death of the author, which as someone with a lit degree, I still don't know if I'm using this properly, LOL, and it seems like Owen Dennis doesn't necessarily believe that his intentions are the sole factor in deciding how his show is perceived. So while he may not have written Ryan and Min as a romantic pairing, I can absolutely see how some viewers interpret it this way, and how some viewers don't. Either way, romantic relationships aren't in lieu of friendships, so I'm counting it still.
You may not be the ace of this team, but with your speed and jumps and my sets, you can take on anybody.
Well, we all saw this one coming. I'm a sucker for tropes like this, where there's one super motivated kid with no natural talent and the cooler, more talented guy with a bad attitude. And as someone who will actively claim Naruto as one of her favorite anime until the day I die, I think Hinata and Kageyama did Naruto and Sasuke better than Naruto and Sasuke did. I just love how their friendship doesn't immediately grow. They both have to work on trusting each other, both on court and off of court, and this translates amazingly into their moves. And maybe it's just because Haikyuu has some of the best fleshed out character writing I've seen in a while, but Hinata and Kageyama feel like characters who shine most when they're together. And this is because their personal obstacles are something they need each other to work through. Kageyama needs to learn to be a team player, and Hinata needs to learn to, strategize. And the idea of someone trusting someone so much that they'll jump with their eyes closed and just smack the air is such a good idea. Sports anime wouldn't be sports anime without the power of friendship, right?
Adora, have you seen Entrapped? What are you doing?
I have everything under control.
That's not what I asked. I told you not to touch anything.
In a show about the power of friendship, We have a lot of options here, but I've always been a sucker for Adora and Bo's friendship. And this is with no shade towards Glimmer. It's just the sheer himbo energy here is just so unmatched. Bo is the first to trust Adora outside of the Horde, and this trust is what she builds her reputation off of for the remainder of the series. Similar to Carole and Tuesday, Adora and Bo's friendship is reliable. They don't often get into disagreements, and when they do, it's never the central point of the plot. Once again, there is no right way to write a friendship, but in a show where angsty friendship is at the forefront, it's nice to see one pair who have each other's backs through it.
Dave's right. Nobody gets over Skyscraper Ridge. Not without experienced guides. We've been over the ridge, what is it, Dave, 10 times now?
More like 12.
Tell you what, we'll take you over the ridge in exchange for, I don't know, Dave, what should we do it for?
The Death Star Cartel.
Yeah, the Death Star Cartel.
Benson and Dave are the classic two friends in a larger group of friends dynamic. The Scooby and Shaggy types, if you will, and I think they're arguably the funniest characters on the show. I also think we overlook a lot the fact that this whole show is about overcoming the tensions between humans and mutes, and Kipo's spot at the center of this, especially in later seasons, has been the source of some criticism. It's just funny to me that Benson and Dave are in the background this entire time, just like chilling together and being supportive no matter what. Even their dream reality is together, and isn't that cute? I think sometimes friendships that are simple shine the brightest, and this is proof of that. Sometimes we don't need to see the friendships develop. Simply seeing two people already so close and remain that way throughout the series is enjoyable in its own right. Like, I know this show is meant to be lighthearted, but their relationship is genuinely one of the cutest and most wholesome things out there. It's even the source of some of the central plots. And similarly to Benson and Dave, their friendship is always strong. Static writing isn't always the bad thing some people make it out to be, especially in an episodic show meant for the viewers to just have a good time. In a show like this, their dynamic is allowed to play out to its full goofy potential. They're constantly getting into shenanigans together, and neither one of them is the logical straight man of the bunch. And that is the most realistic friendship of all. I attest to that.
Oh, he's friends with both of us! Now we're friends too! By association, we're travel friends!
What? No.
Travel friends, brought together by the sheer majesty of an incredible superpower, dear.
Yup, more Infinity Train. And the second I realized the protagonist would be a punk and a himbo, I knew this season would be my favorite forever. I mean, I've rewatched the show like twice, but this season in particular I've seen at least 6 times, because it's a great standalone as well. And Jesse clearly wants to be friends with Lake from the start, because he wants to be friends with literally everyone, and Lake just wants him to go away so she can chill with the deer, who Jesse has dubbed Alan Dracula. And of course, Lake starts to find Jesse endearing, because who doesn't, and they become best friends. And what I love about this season is that the train has designed Jesse, the passenger, to use Lake, the quote-unquote denizen, to work out his issues with so he can gain an exit. But Jesse doesn't see it that way. He doesn't see her as some part of the train like everyone else tells her she is. Instead, Jesse, similarly to Tulip in Season 1, treats Lake as an individual. They help each other out, work together, and it's so heartwarming when Lake realizes Jesse intends to take Lake off the train with him. He wants Lake to come with him for no reason other than the fact that they're friends. And in a show that can get pretty dark at times, I wasn't expecting the ending to pan out the way it did.
That's their fault for not having gotten to know you the way I have. You could have told me, Miko.
But you love Ralphie.
Ralphie's a dumb robot. You're my best friend.
You're sweet when you think you're gonna be crushed by a killer robot in the basement of some old arcade.
For a more recent series, Miko and Five's friendship is honestly moving at such an amazing pace. It starts with Five remembering every time Miko has kicked his ass in a game, and from there, their love of gaming brings them closer together. And their personalities vibe together so well that, despite seeing them only meet in episode 1, it feels as though they've been friends for a while. That's impressive writing. I think one of my favorite scenes between them is in Season 2's Find the Glitch, which is a recap episode that quickly turns into Mitch getting everyone to doubt whether or not Miko herself is a glitch. And just as it looks like Five is going to be the final person to doubt her, he remembers all of their time together and professes that even if Miko is a glitch, that wouldn't make her any less his friend. It feels like a throwaway episode, but I genuinely got emotional. It goes to show how close these two have gotten over the short span of the series.
Gone. You're light itself.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes you're so bright I can't even look at you. But still, can I stay by your side?
I mean, this one shouldn't be a surprise. Their friendship is one of the most famous friendships in anime, and with good reason. These two are quite literally obsessed with each other, but it goes deeper than just besties being besties. Gon and Killua have unusual lives for children, Killua quite literally being a highly skilled assassin. But when they're together, they feel like kids being kids. And while Gon is a classic shonen protagonist, finding good in everyone and wanting to befriend nearly every character he comes across, Killua is someone who's felt less than needed his entire life. And now, with Gon considering him a friend without Killua having to prove himself, you can tell how much that means to him. I won't lie, there was more than one scene where Gon and Killua's friendship actually made me cry, and it's such an integral part of the series. My best friend actually made me watch the show because she said Gon and Killua reminded her of us in some ways. And now I've been finished with the series for months, and she's still on the Chimera Ant arc. Michaela, this is a personal attack, so please finish Hunter x Hunter. Alright, before spot number 1, let's go through some honorable mentions. I really do sound like Watch Mojo.
This journal told me there was no one in Gravity Falls I could trust. But when you battle 100 gnomes side by side with someone, you realize that they've probably always got your back.
But hey, Lulu, every friendship comes with its ups and downs, right, best friend?
I'm not commenting on that. Hootsifer.
A nickname?
Hey, Ruby? Uh-huh. I always wanted bunk beds as a kid.
How many?
36. You win.
Best of 3?
Yeah.
Mad Mod's hypno screens. We can't snap him out of it. We've tried everything.
Did you try this?
Nice one! How did I get here and why am I covered in drool?
Teen Titans was the first show I got into as a kid, so maybe that's why these two will always hold a special place in my heart. And while Beast Boy is absolutely the comic relief of the group, him and Cyborg's friendship is definitely reliable in keeping the tone light even in the darker storylines. And the whole appeal of the 2003 Teen Titans is that such a random group came together. No two personalities are alike, and this allows each individual friendship and relationship to be unique. And because the show doesn't tackle too many extra characters, no relationship is overlooked. However, the intention was definitely to make Cyborg and Beast Boy the closest of the bunch, and it worked out well without distracting from the group's entire dynamic. Not to mention, I just love the fact this big buff guy with a penchant for invention and science, and a tiny green guy who cracks too many jokes are besties who play video games and eat a bunch of food when they aren't saving the day. I'm glad that with the reboot, their friendship is one of the aspects of the original series that the creators decided to keep. And if we look at their first meeting in the Season 5 Origin episode, Cyborg, who has recently taken on his robotic appearance after an accident, seems prepared for Beast Boy to be scared of him or turned away somehow. But Beast Boy, unsurprisingly to the audience, finds his appearance incredibly cool and thinks it's neat that Cyborg calls him dude. It's very cute. All in all, these two have the #1 spot because despite being an animated friendship I was introduced to at like 6 years old, they're still the first duo I think of whenever animated friendships come to mind. Alright, so that's my top 15. I'm sure there are a lot out there that I'm forgetting or haven't seen yet, so let me know if there are any that are particularly cute and good.